No more finalies. Thank you very much, Devamrita Swami Maharaj. Yesterday, Maharaj and myself were in Ujjain, one of the very holy places in the scriptures known as Avanti Desh. And by Krishna's inconceivable arrangement, in the middle of 5-day meetings, we both became quite ill simultaneously. So we returned to Mumbai together. On our way, we stopped at the banks of the holy river there, the site where every 12 years there is a Kumbh Mela. While we were driving, we saw the tilak sign of the Sri Sampradaya. It is the headquarters of the Ramanuja Math in Ujjain. And we remember that it was the disappearance day of Sripad Ramanujacharya on that very day, yesterday. We went inside and had the darshan and met the acharya of that math for some time. And I was thinking about Ramanujacharya while Devamrita Maharaj was speaking about the glories of the path of pure devotional service. I was remembering one of the very dear disciples of Ramanujacharya, Kuresh. So finally, I would like to speak a few words on that subject, with your permission. Most people approach God in the various religions of the world for artha, kama, dhamma, or moksha, for either material prosperity, for the relief of suffering, for some sense of piety by which they can be elevated to higher material pleasures, for the satisfaction of their sensual or mental desires, or for liberation, to be free from all the anxieties and distress of this world. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained to Rupa Goswami that there are 8,400,000 species of life. It is very rare to take the human form. And of those who are humans, it's very rare for one to actually take to the real process of religion. And of those who are religious, almost everyone is after either economic development, sense gratification, religiosity, or relief of pain, mukti, liberation. Muktanam api siddhanam narayana parayana sudulabha prasantatma koteshvapi mahamune. And even those out of millions and millions of such persons who are seeking mukti, and who achieve it. And those who are seeking mystical yogic powers and who achieve it. It's very rare to find a pure, unalloyed devotee of the Lord. And only that person can actually achieve real peace. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he came to give this highest revelation, as Devamrita Maharaj was speaking, very freely to everyone. But we find in our Vaishnava tradition wonderful examples of persons who strived for the highest spiritual happiness. The happiness of unconditional loving service to the Lord. Na danam na janam na sundarim kavitam vajakadisha kamaye mama janmani janmanishwari bhavatad bhaktirahayita kidvai. The Lord prayed, I do not want wealth or the company of the opposite sex or any other such pleasures, nor do I desire distinction, fame, or even liberation from suffering. I only want to serve you unconditionally, birth after birth after birth. And those who are given benedictions by the Lord, the great souls, this is what they desire. Dhruva Maharaj was asked by Kuvera, ask anything, I'll give it to you. He only wanted to always remember the Supreme Lord, never forget Him, and be the servant of the servant of His servants. Prahlad Maharaj was asked any benediction by the Lord Himself. He only desired the welfare of his demoniac father and the welfare of all living beings who are rotting in material consciousness. And the only thing he wanted for himself was, let me only remember you and serve you. Kolavecha, Sridhara, and so many others. The story of Ramanujacharya and his disciple Kuresh very much exemplifies this principle. It is real history. And in the Sri Sampradaya, it is one of the most holy, worshipable stories that give them life and inspiration. Kuresh was a very, very wealthy landowner. In fact, the tract of land in South India where he had so much property was called Kura. And therefore he was known as Kuranath or Kuresh, the Lord of Kura. His wife was Andal. She shared the same qualities as her husband. Another great lesson of this story, which we'd like to speak, finally, is the perfect Grihastha ashram. How a husband and wife can be so much united in the loving service of the Lord. They had a magnificent palace, so much wealth, but they considered that this wealth is not my own. This wealth belongs to God. Kuresh received this understanding because when he was young, he became a disciple of the great Ramanujacharya. And he really took his teachings to his heart, not just theoretically. Oftentimes, both brahmacharis, grihastas, or even sannyasis or vanaprasthas We know the philosophy. But when it actually comes to living it, it's very difficult. So they were considering that the Lord is the Father of all living beings, and He has entrusted us with this wealth. We should use it for the welfare of everyone. So it was known throughout that land that at sunrise every morning He would open the iron gates of His estate. And anyone who wanted anything, if it was within His means, He would give it to them. Just giving in charity. He was giving food, He was giving clothes, He was giving medicines, He was giving properties, He was giving so much. And because so many people were in need, that through the whole day, from sunrise till late at night, people were coming, and He was giving, along with His wife Andal. Not far from there is Kanchipuram, where there is the famous temple of Varadraj. How many of you have been there? Please say Haribol. Haribol! It's a very famous temple of Lord Vishnu. So one day the deity of Varadraj was speaking to the deity of Lakshmi. Because deities can do like that. The deity is God Himself. He can do anything. He can enter into the stone, just like the story of Shakshi Gopal. The Brahmin went to Shakshi Gopal and said that this poor old Brahmin, his son is causing him to tell a lie that he made before you, so please walk from Vrindavan all the way to South India to testify that he made this promise. And the deity looked at him and said, I'm a deity, how can I walk? And the Brahmin said, if you can talk, you can walk. So he said, all right, I will walk. So he walked, and he talked. So Lakshmi asked Varadraj, what was that I'm hearing every night late? That loud clanging sound. Varadraj said, all day long, Andal and Kuresha are giving in charity to all the people who are in need. And finally, when nobody else is there to give to, when it's late at night, they close their gates, and you hear the gates closing. Lakshmi said, oh, he's so generous. They are so charitable. They're giving so much away, not considering themselves. Lakshmi called for Kanchipurna. Kanchipurna was a very, very dear devotee who could actually speak to the Lord. And Lakshmi said, bring this Kuresha, I want to see him. Kanchipurna went to Kuresha's home, and he explained the whole thing. He said, Varadraj said like this, and Lakshmi's so eager, she wants you to come to the temple, she wants to personally bless you. Now most of us, if Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, was calling for you or me, we would probably go quite quickly. Kuresh was thinking that I'm so contaminated, I have such a dark, dirty heart, I'm so low, I have no right to even enter into the temple. Why? Why is Lakshmi calling for me? She's calling me because I give in charity? She's the goddess of fortune. Everything that everyone has in this whole world she's giving. And my little bit of charity, she's calling to see me? What is my charity? I'm doing some material welfare work. That's not real service. For me to come before the goddess of fortune, I have to first become purified. Therefore, first, I will go to take shelter of my Guru Maharaj and get cleansed before I can stand before the Lord and his consort. And then he was thinking that Lakshmi is exposing me because I think I have so much and I think I have so much to give. She wasn't saying it as an act of surrender. She was saying it from her heart. Now, I know many of you ladies planning to get married are wondering how much income your husband's going to earn and all of that stuff. But Andal is the acharya of ladies in this story. Her husband was a multi-millionaire. One day he just said, I'm giving everything away, become beggar. She said, I'm with you. So right then and there, they just gave everything and left home, taking nothing with them. Walking all the way to Srirangam, where their Guru Maharaj was living. One night, they were in the middle of a dark, deep forest. And Andal expressed to her husband, I'm afraid. He said, why should you be afraid? One is only afraid if one has material attachments. If we gave everything away, then what do we have to be afraid of? You can only be afraid if you took something with you. Do you have anything? She said, I only took one thing with me, a golden bowl by which I can feed you with. He said, that is the cause of your fear. Andal took that bowl and threw it in the dark jungle, never to be seen again. And from that moment on, fear never touched her heart. They wandered to Srirangam, took shelter of Ramanujacharya. Ramanujacharya arranged a nice little kutir for them to live. Now here he was. He was giving in charity to thousands and thousands and thousands of people who were coming begging at his house every day, his palace. And now, by his own free will, he's going house to house begging for a little food to survive. He would bring the food home and share it with his wife, and they were constantly immersed in chanting the holy names, serving the Vaishnavas, serving Guru. One day, there was torrential rains in Srirangam. It was raining so hard that they could not possibly leave the house all day long. And Kuresh was really, really hungry, but he didn't say anything. Andal was so concerned with her husband, in a mood of servitude, that she silently prayed in her heart because she heard the Rajbhog offering bells sounding in the temple. And she was thinking, oh dear Lord, my husband is so hungry and he can't go out. Please arrange some food for him. Ranganath spoke to the pujari. He said, take my whole Rajbhog offering, put it on a royal palanquin with a procession and go to Kuresha's house and give it all to him. So Kuresha's laying there, hungry, and soon there's all these drums and South Indian horns and a palanquin with pujaris. They come to the door. Ranganath has sent the Rajbhog offering for you and your wife, Kuresh. So he took it. He turned to Andal and said, "Did you pray?" She said, "Yeah, I didn't say it. I just thought a prayer that my husband, Ranganath, my husband, is hungry. Please give him some food." He said, "Never pray like that again. But since the food, the Mahaprasad has come, we have to accept it." So he took a little portion of it. He actually took a section of it, and he told the pujaris, "You bring all the rest back and distribute it to all the other people. Why should I get all of it and all the other devotees don't get? Go and distribute it to everyone, and myself and my wife will take this." And he took a little portion and gave the rest to his wife. It was his Mahaprasad, Mahaprasad. So she took that Mahaprasad, and by taking that prasad, she became pregnant with a child. About 10 months later, two little boys were born of Andal. And according to the Sri Sampradaya, they believe that these two children were the children of Ranganath and Lakshmi. And secondary creator was Kuresh and Andal. Ramanujacharya, when he heard about this, he became so happy. One of his very, very dearmost disciples had just had twin children. So he went to the house and he chanted in the names of these children the initiation mantras of the Sri Sampradaya. Celebrated. And named one of them Vyasacharya and the other Parasara Bhattar. Now this is very significant because Ramanujacharya's guru Yamunacharya had 3 desires that were unfulfilled when he passed from this world. One was throughout the land of Bharatvarsha to spread pure bhakti and eradicate the misconceptions of Mayavad philosophy. 2 was to write a commentary of the Vedanta Sutra according to the parampara of the Sri Sampradaya. And 3 was to name a disciple, Parasara, who is the speaker of the Vishnu Purana and the father of Vyasadeva. So in naming Parasara Bhattar, he fulfilled one of the primary teachings of, or instructions of his Guru Maharaj. And this Parasara Bhattar was a very empowered little boy. There is a famous story when he was 5 years old. A Digvijay scholar Pandit came to Srirangam. And he was such a proud man. He had people carrying him on palanquin. Sometimes he would ride on elephant. And there would be all Brahmins chanting mantras in his glory, and band members playing auspicious songs. And they'd come into a town and they'd declare that Sarvagya Bhatt has come. He is the all-conquering scholar of all the world. No one can defeat him. He knows everything. There is no question that he cannot answer. We challenge everyone. Come, debate with him. Ask him any question. And if he defeats you, you must become his disciple. For those who are intelligent, don't even try. Just come now and become his disciple. So little Parasara was playing in the dirt. With his two hands, he picked up dirt, handful of dirt. And he ran to the palanquin that Sarvagya-bhata was sitting on. And he stuck the dirt right in front of him. This big elderly scholar looks down at the little boy, said, "What is this?" He said, the little boy said, "To me, all your great learning and all your in all your prestige and all your followers and everything you have is no more significant than this handful of dirt." 5-year-old boy says this. "Ma, you say?" He said, "Yes, but I have a question for you." Sarvagya-bhata said, 5-year-old boy? What question are you going to ask? The greatest scholars, pundits in all the land ask me questions, I defeat them. What is your question? He said, if you are actually Sarvagya, if you really know everything, then I ask you this question: how many grains of sand are in my handful of dirt? Tell me, how many grains of dirt are in my hand? Sarvagya-bhata got off of his palanquin and fell at the feet of this 5-year-old boy. Got up again, put that boy on his lap. He said, "You defeated me. Now I realize that I'm just a proud, arrogant, and I really don't know much of anything. The Supreme Lord is the knower of everything." And he gave up everything and became a humble Vaishnava. That was the power of the son of Kuresha. I'll tell one more little story of Kuresha. Finally. Ramanujacharya, another instruction he had was to write the commentary of Vedanta Sutra. But there was one scripture that he felt was very important to cite in order to make his commentary authoritative. But there was only one copy of the scripture in the whole world. It was in a monastery in Kashmir. So Kuresh, Ramanujacharya, and some of the other disciples, they walked all the way from Srirangam to Kashmir. It's becoming very exciting. We have background music playing. Thank you, Prabhu. How many months it takes to walk that distance. When they finally got there are these big pundits who are all Mayavadi philosophers. And when they heard he wanted to borrow that scripture, they understood that he's already so intelligent, so learned, that he's going to establish this Vaishnava personal philosophy very, very strongly. We can't allow him to see it. So he very, very strongly appealed. And they worshipped the deity of Saraswati. They told him, or he challenged, that put your scripture on the ground in front of the deity. And in the morning, if Saraswati is holding the scripture in her hand, then you should know she wants me to have it. And if it's still where you put it, then you don't have to give it to me. So because other people were around, they felt obliged. They said, all right, we will meet your challenge. So these pundits put the Bodhayan Vritti on the altar. But then they gave a large sum of money to the pujari and said, you go on at night and you make sure that all night long that the scripture remains right here. Hare Krishna. So he went on the altar before the morning and saw the Bodhayan Vritti was in the hands of Goddess Saraswati. So he quickly took it off and put it on the ground. Then they were thinking that Goddess Saraswati wants him to have it. This is even more dangerous. So they went and took that book secretly, lit it on fire, and burned it. Is the story getting interesting? Finally, the morning came. There was no book. So Ramanujacharya is praying to Goddess Saraswati, I know you want me to have this book. And I know she would not allow them to burn this book. It's too valuable. So he said, go and look in her hair and see if she didn't hide it there. So they went into her hair and there was the book. She hid the real book and created a false book for them to burn. So then he took that book and started traveling back to Srirangam immediately, because he knew that they may kill him to get that book back. Meanwhile, these pundits, they arranged some dacoit type people to chase after him and get that book back. So as they were walking down from the Himalayas, a few days later they caught him and they forcibly grabbed that book and took it away. Ramanujacharya was very despondent. He said, now how am I going to write my commentary? The book is gone. We'll never get it back. Kuresh, he said, have no problem. I have been blessed by Lord Narayan with the capacity that anything I hear or read, I never forget. Now, trying to escape from these people, we walked all day long. But while you and all the others were sleeping at night, I read the entire book. And I know every letter of every sloka by heart. So now I'll write and you can dictate your commentary, and any references you want, just ask me and I will tell you. Ramanujacharya spoke and Kuresh wrote. And thus the Sri Bhasya, commentary of Vedanta Sutra, was revealed to the world. Ramanujacharya was becoming very powerful. His base was in Srirangam, which was part of the Chola Empire. At that time, the capital was Kanchipuram. There was a king named Kolatunga, who was a staunch impersonalist and a devotee of Lord Shiva. And although Vaishnavas understand that Shiva and Vishnu are essentially in perfect cooperation with each other, Shiva is an expansion of Vishnu, who is in the role of Vaishnavanam Yata Shambhu, the greatest devotee of Vishnu. And one of the great sampradayas of Vaishnavism is the Rudra Sampradaya, where Lord Shiva is teaching pure devotional service. Recently we were in Natwar. Sripad Ballabhacharya was in this Shiva Sampradaya, teaching pure unalloyed devotional service to Gopal, Srinathji. So, he wanted to convert everyone to his religion. Now we have heard of how Christians have invaded places and forced people to convert. And we have heard how the Mughal Empire, Muslims came to India and very much tried everything within their power to forcibly get people to convert. But do not think that the Hindu religion is so spotless. Because Kolatunga was a Hindu who also was willing to do anything to get people to convert to his conception of God, Shiva. Now, he had a minister named Chatugram. I must tell you something about Chatugram. He was a disciple of Kuresh. Kuresh gave him so much love, so much affection, taught him gave so much of his life to teach him Vedic conclusions, praying for his disciples' life to achieve love for Krishna. But everyone has their free will. Chatugram rejected his guru and became a minister of Kolatunga and told Kolatunga, if you actually want to establish Shiva as the supreme, you must defeat Ramanujacharya. Because he's so influential. He's bringing so many people to this idea of bhakti and devotion to the Supreme Lord Vishnu. Unless you defeat him, you will never be successful. And if you cannot defeat him, he must be killed. On the basis of Chatugram's envy and hatred for his own guru and param guru, Kolatunga sent some messengers to Srirangam, demanding that Ramanuja and his guru, Mahapurna, immediately come to Kanchipuram for a debate. So the messengers arrived, Srirangam. Sripad Ramanujacharya was arranging to go. But Kuresh, he was very, very intelligent. He said, I know this king is very wicked. If he cannot defeat you, he will kill you. Beloved Guru Maharaj, your teachings are bringing light in this age, in the darkness of this age of Kali. Your example, your life is giving pure love to tens and thousands, hundreds and thousands, millions of people. They are depending on you. If you die, it will be the greatest, most tragic loss to the whole world. But I am just a most insignificant servant of your servants. If I die, there will be no loss to anywhere. So please, I beg you, you take my grihasta white cloth, wear it, and escape immediately. I will accept and put on your saffron sannyasi clothes and take your danda, because they don't know what you look like. And I will pretend to be you and go to Kanchipuram to represent you. With tears in his eyes, he was begging and pleading for this benediction to perform this service for his Guru Maharaj. Ramanujacharya thought about it for a long time. He said, if this is really your desire, then I will do. Kuresh gave him his grihasta white clothes, and Ramanujacharya escaped through a back way into the forest. Gradually his followers joined him. Mahapurna at the time, who was one of the gurus of Ramanujacharya, was very old. He couldn't run and escape. He was ready to live or die to face the king. So Kuresh, in the garb of a sannyasi, his guru, along with Mahapurna, went before the messengers and said, yes, take us. When they arrived in Kanchipuram, the Chola king, Kolatunga, he greeted them very respectfully. Now you have come to our capital. We have a question to you. What is the highest goal of life and the primary duty of people like us? Kuresh spoke very compassionately and very strongly. He said, Lord Vishnu is the cause of all causes. He is the supreme Lord of all lords, and pure devotional service to Him is the primary duty of all living beings. Kolatunga went wild with anger. His eyes blazed like fire, screamed out, blasphemy, blasphemy! How dare you speak to undermine the supreme glory of Lord Shiva? For this offense, if you cannot prove your position in debate, you will be killed. Then he called the greatest scholars of the kingdom to debate against Kuresh and Mahapurna on the basis of scripture. And they effortlessly defeated all of their debates. At that time, Kolatunga was really furious. He said, unless you accept Shiva as supreme, you will die. I will execute you. Now, who is supreme? Now, in those days, there was a weighing system of different weights. And one weight was a Shiva, and one weight was a Drona.